The sun was just rising over Ouagadougou, painting the sky with golden hues that mirrored the wealth hidden beneath Burkina Faso's soil. But that morning, a different kind of gold was about to be unearthed, not the one buried in mines, but the moral gold of justice, dignity, and hope. President Ibrahim Traoré, standing on the edge of history, had made a decision that would echo across Africa for decades. In the heart of the capital stood a 10-story glass tower, the luxurious headquarters of Montagne d'Or Corporation, a French mining company that had operated in Burkina Faso for 25 years. It was more than just an office building. It was a symbol of neo-colonial exploitation, of profit without conscience, and of foreign interests extracting billions while giving back nearly nothing. On that very day, Traoré ordered the demolition of the building. But this wasn't just about tearing down glass and steel. It was about tearing down a mentality. The colonial mindset that said Africa was only a resource, not a people. In its place, he vowed to build something that had been denied to his people for generations, a hospital, free and open to all. This is the story of how one man challenged a global power, united a nation, and replaced injustice with healing. It's not a fantasy. It's not fiction. It's a true account of how a hospital became a revolution. 3 days before the demolition that would shake the world, President Ibrahim Traoré visited Koudougou, a small village near Boulassu. What began as a routine check-in with citizens quickly turned into a turning point in history. As Traoré walked through the dusty paths of the village, an elderly woman clutched his hands with desperation in her eyes. Tears streamed down her face. "Mr. President, my son died in a mine accident," she said. "The French make them work 20 hours a day. When they get sick, no one helps. There's no hospital. And we have no money either." Traoré knelt beside her and whispered, "Tell me everything, Auntie. Tell me everything." The woman's voice trembled with both pain and fury. "They've been extracting gold here for 20 years. They've made billions. But they haven't built a school. Not even a clinic. The nearest hospital is 100 kilometers away. Our children die on the road." That night, Traoré couldn't sleep. Her voice echoed in his mind like a haunting call for justice. At 2 a.m., he called his defense minister, General Bamba. "General," Traoré asked, "what do we know about Montagne d'Or?" General Bamba, already alert, brought the files. "They've been here since 1998. They generate around $2 billion a year. Their tax rate? Only 3%. They employ about 1,500 locals, but pay them below minimum wage. No health care. No safety protocols. Nothing." Traoré slammed his fist on the table. 25 years of looting. 25 years of silence. That ends tomorrow. At 10 a.m., that building falls. And we begin construction of a hospital. The general hesitated. "Mr. President, France will go mad. There will be lawsuits, international pressure, maybe worse." "Let them come," Traoré said, standing up. "Let them take us to court. And we'll bring our story. We'll talk about dead miners, about child labor, about poisoned rivers. Let the world hear what they've done." That was the night the decision was born, not out of vengeance, but from the raw pain of a mother and the moral clarity of a leader. Traoré wasn't just responding to an injustice, he was declaring a new national identity. The morning air in Ouagadougou was unusually tense. As the clock struck 7 o'clock, government officials gathered in the presidential office, Interior Minister, Health Minister, Public Works Minister, Police Chief, all awaiting final instructions from President Traoré. The plan was direct, bold, and unprecedented. Issue a 24-hour eviction notice to Montagne d'Or Corporation, revoke their license, and begin demolition by 10 o'clock the next morning. Traoré's special envoy, Karel Kafando, was dispatched to deliver the official notice. As he stepped into the marble-floored lobby of Montagne d'Or's headquarters, a towering glass and steel monument to wealth, panic was already spreading. French CEO Pierre Dubois was pacing nervously, sweat beading on his forehead. With him stood Jean-Claude Marot, the Africa operations manager, and legal advisor Marie Leblanc. They were frantically collecting documents, backing up computers, shredding files. Karel Kafando read the notice aloud with composed authority. By order of the state of Burkina Faso, this property has been seized. You have 24 hours to vacate. Your mining license is revoked. All personnel must leave the country. Dubois exploded. This is illegal. We have contracts. We've invested billions. France won't let this stand. Kafando didn't flinch. For 25 years, you enriched yourselves illegally. The game is over. Leave, or be removed. As Dubois picked up the phone to contact the French Foreign Ministry, crowds began forming outside. Former mine workers, grieving mothers, local villagers, each carrying banners that read, "We want our gold back, build hospitals, not profits, justice for Burkina Faso." By 9 a.m., the crowd had swelled into the thousands. The street was packed with chants, songs, and drums. It wasn't just a protest, it was a people's awakening. President Traoré emerged from his car without bodyguards, walking straight into the crowd. The cheers grew deafening. A mine worker grabbed the microphone. "Mr. President, I've worked in that mine for 20 years. My lungs are ruined. I have no money for treatment. They never saw us as human." Traoré looked him in the eye and said, "That ends now. Today, we're taking back what is ours. This building will be demolished. And in its place, a hospital will rise. Your children will be treated there, for free." The crowd erupted into chants, "Long live Traoré! Down with the colonizers!" From the 10th floor, Dubois and his executives looked down in disbelief. "He's out of his mind," Dubois muttered. "He's going to destroy everything." That evening, the French foreign minister appeared on national television. "This is an act of economic aggression. We will use all legal means to defend our investments." But Traoré remained unmoved. He addressed the nation in a televised speech. "France threatens us. But we are not afraid. 25 years is enough. Tomorrow, at 10 o'clock, this building falls." By midnight, Montagne d'Or was a hive of frenzied activity. Trucks came and went. Secret files were transported. Servers were dismantled. Dubois watched in bitter silence. "They'll pay for this," he said. But as he looked at the workers outside, mothers, miners, children, chanting not with hatred, but hope, even some within his own team began to doubt. His security chief, Philippe Durand, muttered, "Maybe they're right. We never built even a hospital." Dubois snapped, "We came here to make money, not charity." But the tide had already turned. Burkina Faso was no longer silent. The people had found their voice. And they were ready to reclaim their future. The next morning, as the city awoke to the hum of cranes and bulldozers, tens of thousands of people flooded the streets surrounding the Montagne d'Or headquarters. The air was thick with anticipation, pride, and long-suppressed emotion. For many, it felt like the first real day of independence. President Ibrahim Traoré arrived wearing a construction helmet and holding a megaphone. He climbed atop a bulldozer and addressed the massive crowd. "Today, we are not just demolishing a building," he declared. We are demolishing the colonial mindset. Today, Burkina Faso becomes truly independent. At exactly 10 a.m., the first blow was struck. The excavator's steel arm smashed into the glass facade. The building shuddered, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Drums beat louder. Songs echoed across the city. Every strike against the building felt like a strike against 25 years of injustice. In just 2 hours, the 10-story symbol of exploitation was reduced to rubble. Traoré climbed the debris and lifted the megaphone once more. This is how colonialism ends. Now, we build. Right here, on these ruins, will rise a hospital. A place of healing, dignity, and hope, for all. Architectural plans were immediately unveiled. The hospital would have 200 beds, multiple operating rooms, an emergency wing, a maternity ward. And it would be completely free. No citizen would ever again die because they couldn't afford care. The reaction was overwhelming. People offered to help. Women brought food for workers. Youth carried bricks. Elders prayed on site. It wasn't just government construction, it was a national movement. One day, a group of former mine workers arrived with small sacks in their hands. They opened them to reveal tiny amounts of gold dust. "We saved this over the years," one said. "Hidden in our pockets, stolen from our own labor. It's not much, but it's for the hospital." Among them stood an old miner, Moussa Traoré, same last name as the president, though no relation. "I was 15 when the French came," he said. "They promised we'd be rich. But only they got rich. Now I'm 70, and for the first time, I have hope." President Traoré hugged him. "Uncle Moussa, you carried gold for 30 years. Now you'll be treated in this hospital. I promise you'll get the best care." Tears streamed down Moussa's face. "My dream was that my grandchildren could go to school, and be treated when they're sick. Now, both are possible. May God bless you." Traoré tried to return the gold dust. "It's your right. Save it for your children." But the miners refused. "This hospital is for our children. Please accept it." The gold was recorded as the first official donation. It was placed in a glass case in the hospital lobby, with a plaque that read, "This hospital was built with the people's labor, and their love." Meanwhile, French media labeled Traoré a dictator. "The madman who chased away investors," they said. But in African media, the narrative was different: hero leader, the people's president, true independence. And Traoré's response to the critics? Simple. "We are not destroying, we are building. Not revenge, but justice. Not the past, but the future." As bulldozers cleared the last of the rubble and construction cranes rose in its place, the tremors of Burkina Faso's defiance rippled far beyond its borders. What had started as a local act of justice had become a geopolitical flashpoint, and a moral reckoning. Just 2 weeks into construction, a man walked quietly into the presidential office. His name was Jacques Bertrand, a former Africa director of Montagne d'Or. He had resigned years earlier, citing personal reasons. But now he carried something more powerful than regret: truth. "Mr. President," he said, "I want to help you. I know all of Montagne d'Or's secrets: child labor, safety violations, hidden environmental damage. I can testify. If you take them to court, I'll stand by you." Traoré paused. "Why now, Mr. Bertrand? You were silent for years." Bertrand looked down. "I was a coward. I had a family. I feared losing my job. But what you've done, it gave me courage. It showed me silence is no longer an option." His confession exploded in the international press. Major newspapers from New York to Nairobi ran headlines: French mining giant exploited African labor, whistleblower exposes corporate abuse, Traoré's fight gains global traction. Montagne d'Or's stock plummeted 40% in 1 week. Shareholders demanded investigations. And under growing pressure, even the French public began questioning their government's role in post-colonial economic arrangements. Meanwhile, support for Traoré surged across the African continent. Leaders from Niger, Guinea, Senegal, and Mali voiced solidarity. The African Union issued a formal statement: every nation has the right to control its resources. We stand with Burkina Faso. The World Health Organization sent a delegation to inspect the under-construction hospital. What they saw amazed them, not just the medical design, but the spirit of public participation. This isn't just a hospital, said Dr. Sarah Mitchell, WHO representative. This is a revolution in healthcare. A model for Africa, and the world. As global attention intensified, Traoré made his case before the United Nations. In 25 years, he said, they extracted $50 billion worth of gold. But they paid only $1 billion in taxes. Is this justice? Is this independence? He presented secret documents, leaked by an anonymous insider, detailing money laundering, tax evasion, and even falsified death records of miners. They made $2 million a year by not buying safety equipment. They paid child workers $1 a day. And when miners died, they marked them as missing. France's diplomatic response was swift, and increasingly desperate. Their ambassador requested a private meeting with Traoré. The company is ready to donate 10 million euros, he offered. Let's move past this misunderstanding. Traoré stood tall. They stole $50 billion and now offer 10 million? No. Either full accountability, or full justice. Moments later, gunfire echoed near the presidential palace. An armed group had tried to infiltrate. Among the captured were members of Montagne d'Or's private security force. It was an attempted coup, a final act of corporate desperation. They're late, Traoré said, calmly. The building is already gone. Add this to the case: armed assault on a sovereign state. Despite threats, the people stood firm. Volunteers kept building. Activists kept sharing the story. And most importantly, hope kept growing. 6 months after the first excavator hit glass, the hospital opened its doors. Over 100,000 people gathered for the inauguration, leaders from across Africa, journalists from around the globe, and most importantly, the people of Burkina Faso. A surprise guest stood among them, a group of young French activists, holding a banner that read, "Traoré is right, end colonialism." President Ibrahim Traoré stepped up to the podium. 6 months ago, this was a monument to exploitation, he began. Today, it is a sanctuary of healing. But this is only the beginning. We will build hospitals, schools, and universities across Africa, with our own resources, for our own people. Suddenly, a small girl broke through the security line and ran toward him. "President Uncle," she said, hugging his leg, "my mother is sick. Will she get better now?" Traoré lifted her gently and spoke into the microphone, "Yes, little one. Your mother will get better. All mothers will. I promise." Tears welled in many eyes. Cameras flashed. Headlines were written, "Victory of Humanity, Africa's New Dawn." On the first day, 100 patients arrived. The second day, 200. Within a week, the hospital was full. Traoré called an emergency meeting. "We will expand," he said. "We will build wings, annexes. No one will be turned away. Everything was free: treatment, medicine, surgery. Where did the funding come from? From the gold mines, Traoré said, now serving the people. 5 years later, statistics told the story: over 1 million patients treated. Maternal mortality down 80%. Child deaths near zero. And beside the hospital, a vocational school was built to train nurses, lab techs, health workers. Even Du Bois's son returned to Burkina Faso, as a doctor. "I want to fix what my father helped break," he said. Traoré welcomed him. "The past is the past. Let's build the future." And the hospital continues, day after day. Brick by brick, life by life. Not built on bitterness, but on love. The real revolution, Traoré once said, is not in guns, but in compassion. Love your people. Live for them. The rest will follow. Across Africa, from the streets of Accra to the villages of Kisangani, the story of President Ibrahim Traoré became more than just news. It became a symbol of something long awaited: dignity. "I cried watching the demolition," said Fatou Diarra, a nurse from Bamako, Mali. "For the first time, I saw a leader who chose people over power. We've waited decades for someone like him." In Nairobi, Kenyan student activist James Onyango called it a blueprint for African resistance. Traoré did what most of our leaders fear: he stood up to former colonizers and said, "Enough." That gives all of us courage to demand better. In Dakar, Senegal, taxi drivers turned their radios to Traoré's speeches. One driver, Chikndeo, said, "He didn't just build a hospital, he built belief. That we, Africans, can solve our problems without begging the West." Social media in Africa exploded with hashtags like #TraoréEffect, #RealIndependence, and #AfricaForAfricans. Videos of the hospital construction, of the little girl hugging the president, of the people dancing on the ruins of Montagne d'Or, these moments went viral. For many, they represented the rewriting of history in real time. Even in countries where speaking out is dangerous, underground forums lit up. A university student from Eritrea, who asked to remain anonymous, said, "We secretly watched his UN speech in our dorm room. It was the first time we saw someone speak about Africa's suffering with such clarity and pride." Elders, too, saw echoes of their lifelong struggles. "We fought for independence in the 60s, said Thomas Gondo, a retired teacher from Zimbabwe. But we were never truly free." What Traoré did. It's the second liberation. In Lagos, Nigeria, a radio talk show ran a full week of discussions titled, "Could We Have a Traoré?" Listeners called in with mixed emotions: hope, envy, admiration. One caller summed it up: "He is not just Burkina Faso's president. He is Africa's president." But not all voices were hopeful. In cities like Kinshasa or Yaoundé, some expressed fear. "What if our leaders retaliate against anyone who tries to follow Traoré's path?" said a journalist. "He's lit a match. Now we have to protect the flame." Despite the risks, the fire had started. From neighborhood barbershops to university halls, African citizens weren't just watching Traoré, they were being transformed by him. A new question began to take root in people's minds, quietly but firmly: if he can do it, why not us?